Better to let it go. It's not worth arguing. I'm bigger than this. How many times have you told yourself that lie? How many times have you swallowed the right words, buried the necessary response, and let silence speak for you? All to avoid the discomfort of conflict. Here's what no one wants to tell you. Every time you do this, you don't just betray the moment, you betray yourself. You've been living in a prison, and the bars are made of politeness. Think about it. How many injustices have you tolerated just to keep the peace? How many times have you stayed quiet when your gut was screaming to speak up? How many boundaries have you let slide because confrontation felt too messy, too uncomfortable, too aggressive? You've become a master of the non-confrontational life. You've perfected the art of swallowing your truth, and somewhere along the way, you convinced yourself this was wisdom, that this was emotional maturity, that choosing silence over conflict made you the bigger person. But here's the thing about always being the bigger person. You start to feel very, very small. Because what you call keeping the peace isn't peace at all. It's a constant, exhausting performance where you pretend your voice doesn't matter, your needs don't count, and your truth isn't worth defending. You've been walking around with a permanent knot in your stomach, carrying the weight of all things you should have said but didn't. You've been living in what Nietzsche called herd morality, the comfortable conformity of those who prioritize safety and social approval over authentic self-expression. This didn't happen by accident. From the moment you could understand language, you were trained in the gospel of getting along. Don't talk back. Be nice. Don't cause trouble. If you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all. Sound familiar? You were conditioned to believe that conflict equals chaos, that confrontation means you're difficult, that standing up for yourself makes you selfish. You learned that good people don't fight, mature people don't argue, and enlightened people just let things go. But here's what they didn't tell you. This whole philosophy is built on a lie. Nietzsche saw through this with brutal clarity. He called it slave morality, a value system created not by the strong, but by the powerless. Those who couldn't fight back, so they made a virtue out of not fighting at all. Think about it. Who benefits the most when you stay quiet? Who wins when you don't assert your boundaries? Who profits from your silence? It's not you. This supposed virtue you've been carrying around, this pride in being low maintenance, in not causing drama, it's not nobility. It's what Nietzsche called herd morality disguised as virtue. The herd mentality prizes mediocrity and conformity, punishing those who dare to rise above the collective. It's fear dressed up as virtue. Fear of losing approval. Fear of being seen as difficult. Fear of the messy, uncomfortable reality that standing up for yourself sometimes requires. And the most insidious part? This herd mentality has become so normalized that we celebrate it. We praise the person who never complains. We admire the one who just goes with the flow. We've turned self-abandonment into a spiritual practice. But Nietzsche knew better. He understood that the herd is driven by fear of the exceptional and the unknown. It prizes mediocrity and conformity, punishing those who dare rise above the collective, and that this creates a society where greatness is stifled, creativity is suppressed, and individuals are coerced into shared mediocrity. So what's the real cost of this conflict-avoidant life? Let's get honest about what all that swallowed anger does to you. It doesn't disappear, it ferments. It turns into what Nietzsche called resentment, a toxic brew of unprocessed rage, self-pity, and powerlessness that slowly eats you alive from the inside. You feel it, don't you? That simmering frustration when someone crosses your boundaries and you say nothing. That pit in your stomach when you smile and nod while everything inside you wants to scream. That growing bitterness towards people who just don't get it, when the truth is, you never gave them a chance to get it because you never spoke up. Every time you remain silent in the face of disrespect, you're not just avoiding conflict, you're accumulating poison. And that poison doesn't just hurt you, it leaks into everything. Your relationships become performances, your work becomes endurance, your life becomes a constant negotiation between who you are and who you think you should be. The resentful person, and this might sting to hear, becomes complicit in their own oppression. By not confronting what needs to be confronted, you teach the world that this is how you deserve to be treated. You train people that your boundaries are suggestions, not requirements. And the cruelest irony? The very people you're trying to protect by avoiding conflict often lose respect for you because of it. They sense your fear, they feel your resentment, they know something's off, even when they can't name it. Meanwhile, you're stuck in this vicious cycle. The more you avoid confrontation, the more resentful you become. The more resentful you become, the less courage you have to confront. And down you spiral into bitterness, self-pity, and that special kind of exhaustion that comes from living a life where you're constantly at war with yourself. But here's what Nietzsche understood that most people miss. This isn't your natural state. This isn't who you really are. This is who you were taught to be. There's a way out of this prison, but it requires you to embrace something you've been taught to fear. Your will to power. Now, before you picture some domineering tyrant, that's not what Nietzsche meant. The will to power isn't about controlling others. It's about refusing to be controlled. It's about reclaiming your right to exist fully, to take up space, to assert your truth without shame or apology. It's the fundamental drive of everything that lives, the impulse to grow, to expand, to become more than you were. It's the force that pushes the seed through the concrete, that drives the artist to create, that compels the human spirit to transcend its limitations. But slave morality wants to kill this in you. It wants you small, controllable, harmless. It teaches you that your desires don't matter, your boundaries are selfish, and your truth is too dangerous to speak. It's bullshit. Your will to power is not your enemy, it's your birthright. And reclaiming it doesn't make you aggressive or selfish, it makes you alive. This is where Nietzsche's famous metaphor of the three transformations becomes crucial. He said the human spirit must go through three stages, from camel to lion to child. The camel is where most people live, burdened, obedient, carrying everyone else's expectations on their back. The camel is strong, but it's the sterile strength of endurance, not creation. The camel takes pride in how much suffering it can bear, but there comes a moment when the camel's spirit revolts. It can no longer carry the weight of lies. It needs freedom. It needs to become the lion. The lion is the spirit that learns to say no. No to external impositions. No to slave morality. No to the roles that diminish you. The lion must slay the great dragon of thou shalt, all those commandments that keep you small. But the lion's work isn't destruction for its own sake. It's clearing space, creating territory where you can exist authentically. And once that space is claimed, something beautiful happens. A child emerges. The child is the reborn spirit, free from the camel's burden, free from the lion's defensiveness. The child creates new values, chooses consciously where to engage and where to withdraw. The child lives lightly, authentically, joyfully. This is your path to freedom, but it requires you to stop seeing conflict as the enemy and start seeing it as the arena where your authentic self is forged. So how do you actually do this? How do you transform from the conflict-avoiding camel into someone who can face necessary confrontation with wisdom and strength? First, you need to reframe what conflict actually is. Conflict isn't violence. It's not about destroying the other person. It's about two truths meeting in the same space. And that's not inherently destructive. That's how growth happens. The goal isn't to win every argument or dominate every interaction. The goal is to show up as yourself, fully, honestly, unapologetically yourself. Sometimes that means saying no. Sometimes it means setting a boundary. Sometimes it means speaking a truth that makes people uncomfortable. Start small. Practice saying no to things that don't serve you. Practice expressing preferences instead of always deferring to others. Practice speaking up when someone crosses a line, even if your voice shakes a little. Notice how your body feels when you assert yourself versus when you suppress yourself. Pay attention to the difference between the clean tiredness that comes from honest interaction and the toxic exhaustion that comes from constant performance. And here's something crucial. You're not responsible for managing other people's emotions. If someone gets upset because you set a boundary, that's information about them, not evidence that you did something wrong. Your job isn't to keep everyone comfortable. Your job is to live with integrity. Remember, every time you avoid a necessary conflict, you're not being kind, you're being dishonest. You're withholding information that could help the relationship grow. You're preventing the other person from knowing where you actually stand. Real kindness sometimes looks like confrontation. Real love sometimes requires conflict. Real growth always demands that you stop hiding behind the mask of endless accommodation. This doesn't mean becoming an asshole who picks fights for sport. It means becoming someone who can engage conflict consciously, not from a place of reactivity or resentment, but from a place of clarity and purpose. You're not trying to control outcomes. You're not trying to make everyone happy. You're simply trying to live as the fullest expression of who you are. And sometimes, often, that's going to ruffle some feathers. Let them ruffle. There's something I need you to understand. Your silence has a price, and it's not just your price to pay. Every time you choose silence in the face of injustice, every time you swallow disrespect, every time you let someone cross your boundaries without consequence, you're not being neutral. You're reinforcing the very patterns that oppress you. You're teaching the world that this is how you accept being treated. You're showing others that boundaries are optional, that your voice doesn't matter, that your truth isn't worth defending. And here's the hard part. The world notices. People can sense when you're afraid to assert yourself. Those who act in bad faith, they see your fear as an invitation. But here's the beautiful part. Courage is contagious too. When you start standing up for yourself, you give others permission to do the same. When you refuse to accept disrespect, you model what self-respect looks like. When you speak your truth, even when your voice shakes, you remind everyone around you that their truth matters too. Nietzsche said, "Become who you are," but you can't become who you are from the shadows. You can't discover your authentic self by constantly hiding behind the mask of agreeability. Your authentic self lives in the space where you meet the world honestly, where you show up as you are, not as you think you should be. And that space inevitably includes conflict, not for its own sake, but because truth and authenticity sometimes clash with comfort and convention. So here's my challenge to you. Stop making conflict the enemy. Start making cowardice the enemy. Stop making peace your highest value. Start making integrity your highest value. The next time someone crosses your boundary, speak up. The next time you feel that familiar urge to swallow your words to keep the peace, ask yourself, am I really being wise? Or am I just being afraid? The next time you catch yourself thinking, it's not worth it, remember this. You are worth it. Your voice is worth it. Your truth is worth it. You were not born to be an eternal camel, carrying everyone else's expectations on your back. You have within you the lion's courage to say no, and the child's wisdom to create something beautiful from that freedom. But it starts with one decision. The decision to stop being afraid of who you might become if you stopped being afraid of conflict. The choice is yours. The cage door is open. What are you going to do? If this resonated with you, I want you to do something right now. Comment below and write, "I choose to no longer remain silent." Not for me, but for you. Because putting this intention into words is the first step toward making it real. And if you're ready to go deeper into this work of reclaiming your authentic self, the next video is waiting for you. We're just getting started.